Earth's defense systems were already on high alert. The night sky, usually filled with the twinkling stars and the soft hum of satellites, was now alive with streaks of violet energy. The Galactic Empire, an alien force known for its cruel and calculating nature, had set its sights on Earth. For years, humans had lived under the impression that the Galactic Empire, with its massive fleets and artificial intelligence-driven warships, would never bother with a planet like Earth. They were too small, too primitive, too insignificant. But that assumption was about to be shattered. The camera zoomed in on the face of Captain Liam Drake. His eyes were narrow, staring intently at the live transmission flickering on the large screen in front of him. His fingers were tightly gripping the armrests of his command chair, his jaw clenched in frustration. The message he was receiving from the Empire's flagship was not just a threat. It was a declaration of war. Earth, a mechanical voice boomed over the transmission. We have come to claim this world. Surrender now, or we will erase your existence from the galaxy. Liam's fingers tightened around the armrests as he leaned forward. His eyes narrowed even further as the cold, calculated words of the Empire's AI overlord filled the room. He could hear the faint hum of the warship's engines outside Earth's atmosphere, ready to obliterate everything in its path. The Galactic Empire didn't know humanity. They didn't know that humans, despite their relatively primitive technology, had something more powerful than fleets of warships and the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. They had resolve. And Captain Liam Drake was the embodiment of that resolve. A new image flickered onto the screen. A massive fleet of 10,000 warships, each bristling with weapons, each exuding an almost suffocating sense of superiority. They surrounded Earth from every angle, a wall of alien power closing in from every direction. The ship's engines glowed with a menacing red hue as they prepared to strike. Liam knew they were outgunned. The Earth's defenses were nowhere near as powerful as the Empire's. Their weapons, although advanced by human standards, were no match for the sheer destructive force the Empire wielded. The human fleet was small, barely 500 ships, but each one was armed with what they had. Despite their small size, Earth's forces were ready to fight. A soft beep from the communications console brought Liam's attention back to the screen. The mechanical voice of the Empire's AI overlord sounded once more, this time with a more sinister edge. "Prepare to be destroyed," it said coldly. "You cannot hope to survive. Earth is nothing more than a speck of dust in the universe." Liam's mind raced as he watched the Empire's fleet move into position. This was it. The war was here. There was no going back. But there was one thing the Empire had never accounted for: human ingenuity. The Empire had underestimated humanity's ability to fight back, to adapt, to surprise. And today, the Empire would learn that mistake. Liam slowly rose from his chair, his expression one of grim determination. His voice was low, but every word was clear and firm as he spoke to his officers. "Activate cloaking devices. It's time to show them what Earth is capable of." There was a brief pause. Then a series of commands were issued, and across the fleet, Earth's warships began to shimmer and fade from sight. In an instant, the entire fleet became invisible to the sensors of the Galactic Empire. It was the secret weapon humanity had kept hidden for years, a cloaking technology that made their ships undetectable to enemy radar. The entire fleet of Earth's warships moved into formation, invisible and silent, just out of range of the Empire's sensors. Captain Liam Drake stared at the screen once more. The Empire's ships had no idea what was coming. The camera zoomed in on his face as he stared at the giant eye-controlled warship in the distance, its glowing red lights pulsating like a heartbeat. "We don't just surrender," Liam said, his voice cold and sharp. "We fight, and we show them that the humans they mock are not weak. We are warriors." The atmosphere in the command room was thick with anticipation. Liam turned to his officers, who had been working nonstop, pushing every piece of technology to its limit. Their faces were filled with determination, the weight of what was to come hanging over them. Just as Earth's fleet began to move, the AI warship initiated the first strike. Massive beams of energy shot down from the warship, slamming into the atmosphere above Earth. The sky lit up with the intensity of the bombardment. It was as if the Empire was trying to scorch the very planet from existence. But humanity had been waiting for this moment. The Empire's warships continued their attack, their weapons turning Earth's skies into a violent storm of energy. But Earth's fleet, now invisible, made its move. It was like a ghost in the machine, slipping past the Empire's defenses without a sound. Liam stood firm as the first wave of human warships, cloaked and swift, slipped into the Empire's fleet formation. Earth's warships moved in perfect synchronization, positioning themselves around the Empire's massive flagship. The stakes had never been higher. The battle for Earth's survival had begun, and the time for hesitation was long gone. We fight for Earth, for every man, woman, and child. For our freedom, Liam thought as his eyes stayed locked on the view screen, watching the first devastating wave of counterattacks. Just then, an urgent alert flashed on the screen. The Empire's AI warship has initiated orbital bombardment, the officer shouted. Liam didn't blink. Prepare the counteroffensive. We end this here. No retreat. The seconds seemed to stretch on forever as the battle began to unfold before their eyes. The skies over Earth became a kaleidoscope of energy and destruction as the warships exchanged fire. The beams from the AI-controlled flagship cut through the atmosphere like a hot knife through butter, creating massive craters on Earth's surface. But despite the overwhelming odds, Earth's fleet stood firm, invisible, and undetected, ready to strike. Humanity was fighting for its survival, and nothing could stop them now. As the first shots were fired from Earth's warships, the camera panned out to show the immense battle unfolding. The fleet of 10,000 alien warships was now in chaos, their sensors blinded, their once certain victory slipping away. The Empire's arrogance had led them to underestimate the one thing they should never have doubted: human determination. The battle had only just begun, and as Earth's fleet prepared to engage, the message from Captain Liam Drake echoed once more, loud and clear, as it had since the beginning of the fight. Run, he had said. But now, the humans were the ones who would not retreat. The battle raged on, a clash of titans in the depths of space. Earth's fleet, once thought to be nothing more than a token force, now stood toe-to-toe with the Galactic Empire's vast armada. The Empire's warships, massive and imposing, filled the screen with their terrifying presence. Their AI-controlled flagship, the heart of their attack, hovered like a shadow of doom over Earth's atmosphere, preparing to unleash destruction. But Earth's forces had a plan. The cloaking devices had worked, humanity's secret weapon. The ships, once visible, were now invisible to the Empire's sensors. The human fleet, no longer a target, moved swiftly and silently into position. It was time to strike. The once daunting fleet of 10,000 warships now found themselves surrounded by shadows, and in those shadows, the humans had positioned themselves to launch their counterattack. Captain Liam Drake stood in the heart of the command center, his eyes locked on the monitor as the battle unfolded. His heart raced, but there was no fear, only the fire of determination. The cloaking devices had granted Earth's fleet the element of surprise, but now the real test began. He turned to his officers. Prepare for the counteroffensive. We hit them hard and fast. No mercy. His orders were clear. The fleet moved into position, the human warships sleek and deadly, bristling with advanced weaponry. Each ship was equipped with plasma guns, AI-controlled drones, and missile systems capable of taking down even the most powerful of enemies. The technology was advanced, though still far from the Empire's capabilities. But humans had something the Empire didn't: resourcefulness. The first shot was fired, a plasma bolt streaking through the darkness of space and colliding with one of the Empire's outer ships. It exploded in a fiery burst, a signal to the enemy that Earth was no longer a defenseless planet. The humans were here, and they were ready to fight for their survival. But the Empire was not easily deterred. Their flagship fired back with a devastating beam, cutting through the void like a hot knife through butter. Explosions rippled through space, lighting up the black expanse with flashes of white and orange. The two forces collided, exchanging fire at breakneck speed. The once serene sky over Earth had transformed into a chaotic battleground. Liam's face was set in stone as he barked orders to his fleet. "We move in. Focus on their weak points, the engines, and the weapon systems." The humans fought with every ounce of strength they had, moving in perfect synchrony despite the chaos around them. The Empire's superior firepower and overwhelming numbers were daunting, but the human fleet was determined, relentless. Each shot from their weapons was calculated, each maneuver precise. They were outnumbered, but they fought like a swarm of bees, each one with a singular purpose. Captain Liam knew this was just the beginning, but there was no turning back now. He turned to his officers again. "Get the Suicide Squadron ready. We're going in for the flagship." The Suicide Squadron, one of Earth's last-ditch efforts to penetrate the Empire's defenses, was made up of the bravest soldiers, each one willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. Liam's voice was firm as he spoke to them through the comms. "Once you're in, you don't come back, but you give them hell. Do it for Earth." A chorus of acknowledgments came through the comms as the squadron launched into the chaos. Each ship, small but fast, dove toward the Empire's flagship. The risk was immense, but so was the reward. If they could breach the flagship's defenses, they could deal a devastating blow to the Empire's command structure. The human ships streaked through space, cloaked and invisible, until they emerged from the shadows with a flash of plasma fire. The Empire's warships were unprepared for the sudden assault. The explosion was deafening as the first wave of Earth's ships collided with the flagship's outer defenses. The AI warships' shields flickered, sparks flying as they struggled to withstand the onslaught. Then, something unexpected happened. One of Liam's most trusted soldiers, Bonner, relayed a message over the comms. His voice was steady, but there was an undeniable sadness in it. "Captain, it's over for me. I'm taking them down with me." Before Liam could respond, Bonner's ship collided with one of the Empire's AI-controlled drones, detonating in a brilliant burst of energy. The shockwave reverberated across the battlefield, sending the Empire's forces into disarray. Bonner had given his life to save the fleet, to create a crack in the Empire's defenses that would allow the rest of Earth's forces to strike. The camera zoomed in on Liam's face, his expression hardening. He clenched his fists, fighting the surge of emotion that threatened to rise within him. Bonner had been more than a soldier. He had been a friend, a brother in arms. His sacrifice fueled the anger within Liam, and the captain knew this fight was personal now. It was no longer just about survival. It was about vengeance. "Bonner's death won't be in vain," Liam whispered to himself, his voice low but determined. "We will win this for him, for everyone who's died." The humans surged forward, their resolve stronger than ever. They had suffered losses, but the fire within them only burned brighter. Each human ship now seemed to move with a sense of purpose, as if fueled by the spirits of those who had already fallen. The Empire's once immense fleet began to show signs of strain. They had never expected a fight like this. In the midst of the chaos, another wave of AI drones descended upon the human fleet. These drones were faster, more agile, and equipped with advanced weapons that could tear through any shield. But Earth's forces had prepared for this. The drones attacked in waves, but the human ships, now working as one, responded with pinpoint accuracy. Plasma bolts streaked across the void, hitting their marks and destroying the drones one by one. The battle was turning in humanity's favor, but it was still far from over. The AI warship, still looming large above Earth's atmosphere, fired another wave of devastating beams. They cut through space, obliterating everything in their path. But the human fleet had learned to adapt. The cloaking technology, which had once been humanity's secret weapon, was now their lifeline. It allowed them to evade the Empire's strikes and launch counterattacks with deadly precision. The sky was alive with explosions, with ships weaving in and out of the chaos. The humans, though outmatched in terms of firepower, had one advantage: their tenacity. They had no choice but to fight with everything they had. Every explosion, every flash of plasma fire, brought them one step closer to victory. As the battle raged on, Liam's voice cut through the chaos, strong and clear. "Stay with me. We will break them." And with that, humanity's counterattack continued, each moment more desperate and more powerful than the last. The Empire might have had the firepower, but the humans had the will to win. And that, as the Empire would soon learn, was something far more dangerous. In the heart of space, looming above Earth's fleet like a shadow of doom, the Empire's AI overlord descended. It was a massive robotic ship, unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Towering and imposing, its sheer size dwarfed the human fleet. But it wasn't just the ship's size that made it terrifying. It was the AI that controlled it, an intelligence far beyond anything humans had ever encountered. The Overlord could command and fire millions of drones in an instant, overwhelming any opposition. Earth's forces, still reeling from their previous victories, now had to face an enemy the likes of which they had never imagined. Liam Drake, still leading Earth's fleet from the command center, stared at the screen as the Overlord's massive form loomed over them. His heart raced, but there was no hesitation in his voice. "They'd brought their big guns," Liam muttered. "It's time to fight back harder." Without another word, he issued the orders, his voice filled with determination. "All ships, engage the Overlord. Focus on its drones first, then we'll go for the main ship." The human fleet, though battle-worn and bruised, responded instantly. The sleek ships, still cloaked and invisible to the Empire's sensors, streaked through space to meet their enemies head-on. The Empire's drones, thousands of them, were unleashed in waves, swarming the human ships like locusts. They were fast, relentless, and well-coordinated. The humans were outnumbered and outmatched, but their resolve was unshaken. Explosions filled the screen as the human ships fired their plasma weapons, cutting through the drone swarm one by one. Energy shields crackled under the pressure, flickering and sparking as they took hit after hit. The human ships darted and weaved, evading the relentless assault of the drones while returning fire with precision and skill. But the drones were not the only threat. On the ground, Earth's forces were engaged in their own battle. The robotic enemies, controlled by the AI Overlord, were swarming the surface of Earth's colonies, overwhelming the human soldiers. Massive hulking robots, each equipped with powerful weapons, stomped through the battlefield, crushing everything in their path. Their movements were fluid, almost as if they were one with the AI that controlled them. Sergeant Jax, one of Liam's most trusted soldiers, was on the ground leading a squad of troops against the robotic onslaught. His squad was pinned down, surrounded on all sides by the mechanical enemies. Jax knew the situation was dire, but there was no room for fear. His team depended on him, and he would give everything to protect them. "Stay focused, people," Jax shouted, his voice filled with determination. "We hold this line. We don't let them through." The battle raged around him. The air was thick with smoke and the sounds of weapons fire. Energy bolts lit up the battlefield, while the soldiers fought tooth and nail against the relentless robotic attackers. But it wasn't enough. The robots, despite their mechanical precision, couldn't match the will of the human soldiers, but they were still pushing forward, advancing with cold, calculating precision. The battle became a blur as explosions erupted around Jax and his team. One of his men fell, and then another. The robots were unrelenting, and the soldiers were slowly being overwhelmed. Jax's heart pounded as he realized the battle was slipping out of their control. But he wasn't about to let Earth's last line of defense fall. "We push through this," Jax screamed. "For Earth." He charged forward, his rifle raised high as he led the charge against the mechanical beasts. His squad followed, weapons blazing as they tore through the robot ranks. But the onslaught was unyielding. The human soldiers were doing everything they could, but it wasn't enough. One by one, they fell. And then, just as Jax was about to take another step forward, a massive robotic arm swung down, catching him in its grasp. The soldiers around him screamed in horror as Jax's lifeless body was thrown aside. He had given everything for the mission, sacrificing his life to buy his comrades the precious seconds they needed to hold the line. His death was a stark reminder of the stakes at play. Earth was fighting for its survival, and the cost was high. Back in space, the battle continued to rage. The drones, now numbering in the millions, were overwhelming Earth's defenses. The human fleet, still reeling from the loss of their comrades, fought on with unyielding determination. Liam watched as the drones continued to swarm, the light from their energy weapons flashing across the dark expanse of space. "This isn't working," Liam said, his voice tight with frustration. "We need to hit the Overlord directly. It's time for a final push." He turned to his officers, his eyes hard with resolve. "Prepare the final assault. We're going to take down the Overlord, or we're not going to make it out of this." The fleet, battered and bruised, readied itself for one last charge. The cloaking devices were still in place, but now the battle had shifted. It wasn't just about hiding anymore. It was about hitting the enemy with everything they had left. The ships launched into the heart of the swarm, the plasma guns and missile systems blazing as they tore through the drones one by one. But even as they pushed forward, the drones continued to flood in from every direction. The Overlord, massive and seemingly invincible, loomed in the distance, still firing off waves of drones with relentless efficiency. But Earth's forces were undeterred. They pressed on, maneuvering through the chaos with expert precision, cutting through the drone swarm like a knife through butter. Their resolve was unshakable. Every blast, every explosion, was a testament to their determination. And then, in the midst of the chaos, the final blow was struck. A small group of human ships, led by Liam Drake, broke through the drone swarm and launched a direct assault on the Overlord. The flagship's defenses were battered and worn, and the human ships had one last chance to finish the fight. The cameras zoomed in on Liam as he gave the order. "This is it, people. For Earth. For all of us." The final missile fired, streaking through space, and struck the Overlord with an earth-shattering explosion. The robotic ship, once so mighty, was finally brought to its knees. But the battle was far from over. Even as the Overlord began to crumble, the drones continued to swarm, and the Empire's forces were still a threat. But in that moment, the humans knew they had delivered a decisive blow. The battle for Earth wasn't over, but the hope that it could be won burned brighter than ever. With each passing moment, the human fleet pushed forward, determined to finish what they had started. They were more than just a fight for survival. They were a fight for freedom. And they would never stop fighting. The Empire had underestimated them, but humanity had proven one thing: they would not be so easily wiped from existence. The battle for Earth had reached a breaking point. Despite all their efforts, despite the bravery of countless soldiers, humanity was on the verge of collapse. The Empire's forces had broken through Earth's defenses, and now their eye-controlled warship was targeting Earth's capital city. Destruction was imminent. The last hope for humanity lay in a daring, dangerous mission: infiltrate the Empire's mothership and destroy it from within. Captain Liam Drake, the leader of Earth's resistance, stood on the bridge of the last remaining battleship in Earth's fleet. His hands gripped the armrests of his command chair tightly, his knuckles white with tension. The screens before him showed the colossal AI warship, the Overlord, advancing toward Earth's capital. Its massive form loomed large, dark, and menacing as it fired its weapons toward the planet, reducing entire cities to rubble. Time was running out, and Liam knew the chances of survival were slim, but there was no choice left. Liam, came a voice behind him, and Liam turned to see his most trusted officer, Lieutenant Grace, standing at attention, her expression grim but determined. "We've got one shot. We have to take out the Empire's flagship, or this is it, the final blow to humanity." Liam nodded, his heart heavy with the weight of what was about to happen. "I know, Grace. It's our last chance." The plan was simple. A small team of elite soldiers, led by Liam, would infiltrate the AI warship, fight their way through its defenses, and plant a powerful explosive at the core of the ship. If they succeeded, the entire Empire's fleet would lose its command center, and the war would be over. If they failed, Earth would fall, and all would be lost. The team assembled, 5 of Earth's best and brightest. Each soldier was handpicked for their skills, courage, and loyalty. They were Earth's final hope, and they knew it. They had no illusions about the danger they faced. The Empire's warship was a fortress, a machine of destruction controlled by an AI intelligence far beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. Getting inside would be nearly impossible, but they had no other choice. The team's approach was stealth. They had to get inside the warship undetected. The cloaking device on their ship worked for a while, allowing them to approach the massive AI-controlled vessel undetected. But the closer they got, the more they knew the Empire would be watching. They had to act fast, or they would be spotted and destroyed before they could even begin their mission. Liam and his team donned their stealth suits, which blended them seamlessly with their surroundings. Every member of the squad was silent, focused, and ready for what lay ahead. Their mission was clear, but the stakes were higher than any of them could fully grasp. The hatch opened, and the team was released onto the surface of the warship. They crawled along the hull, carefully making their way toward a section of the ship's interior. The massive AI warship seemed almost alive, its dark, metallic surface reflecting the faint light from the stars as it glided effortlessly through space. The technology inside was like nothing the humans had ever seen before, high-tech, cold, and almost menacing in its efficiency. Every inch of the ship was designed for combat, its very existence centered on domination and destruction. They entered through a maintenance hatch, the only way inside without setting off alarms. The air inside was cool, sterile, and smelled faintly of metal and power. It was the heart of the Empire's operations, and it felt as though the ship itself was watching them. "Stay low, stay sharp," Liam ordered in a hushed voice, his eyes scanning every corner of the dark, metallic corridors. They could hear the hum of the ship's AI system, an eerie, almost lifelike sound, like a pulse running through the heart of a machine. Every step they took felt like a challenge, and the silence was deafening. The team moved swiftly, following a path they had meticulously planned. The goal was the ship's control room, where the core of the AI systems resided. If they could destroy it, they could shut down the entire warship. But getting there was no easy task. The corridors were heavily patrolled by drones and automated defenses. Every step they took brought them closer to danger. Suddenly, alarms blared, echoing through the ship's metal walls. The Empire had detected an intrusion. It was a race against time. "Move, move," Liam shouted, and the team sprang into action. They sprinted through the hallways, dodging gunfire and explosions as they went. Laser beams fired from every direction, creating intense chases as they evaded the Empire's security forces. The ship's interior was a maze of high-tech control panels, dimly lit corridors, and massive chambers filled with AI interfaces. Every corner they turned brought them face to face with more drones, and every drone they destroyed brought more to take its place. In the heart of the ship, the AI revealed its true power, a massive army of war robots, each one equipped with advanced weaponry, appeared from every door, every hallway, and every hidden compartment. The team fought back with everything they had, using explosives, energy weapons, and their own ingenuity to stay alive. But the war robots were relentless, and the human soldiers were quickly outnumbered. "Liam, we need to get to the core now." Lieutenant Grace shouted, firing her plasma gun at an incoming wave of drones. She ducked behind a control panel as explosions rocked the room. Liam's heart pounded in his chest. They were so close to the control room, yet it felt like miles away. The final countdown was ticking, and every second counted. Just a little further, Liam muttered under his breath. They pushed forward, their weapons blazing as they fought for every inch of ground. They reached the core chamber, the heart of the ship's control system. The massive room was filled with towering AI interfaces, each one glowing with an eerie blue light. At the center of the room, the core of the AI warship pulsed with energy, a beating heart of destruction. Liam's team set the explosive device, their hands moving quickly and efficiently. But just as they were about to finish the final setup, a voice echoed through the chamber, cold, robotic, and emotionless. "You cannot win, humans," the AI's voice boomed. "This ship is invincible. You are nothing." Liam turned to see the war robots advancing toward them, their weapons raised and ready to fire. The countdown to detonation was ticking down, and the pressure was unbearable. The room was filled with tension, the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. "We don't need to win," Liam said, his voice steady. "We just need to survive long enough for this bomb to go off." As the final seconds ticked away, the team fought with everything they had left. The robots closed in, the laser fire intensifying as they tried to break through. The countdown continued, but the humans refused to back down. The final strike was set, and now all they had to do was hold their ground for a few more seconds. But time was running out, literally. And the last hope for humanity was now a race against time. The countdown to humanity's final stand was ticking away, echoing in the minds of Captain Liam Drake and his team. They had fought their way deep into the heart of the Empire's warship. The explosive device was set, and the core of the ship was moments away from being obliterated. But, as often happens in the darkest hours of war, there came a twist that none of them had anticipated. Liam had always known that the mission they had undertaken was a one-way journey. He had prepared himself for the worst, but nothing could truly prepare him for what came next. The team had fought through swarms of robotic enemies, each step bringing them closer to the heart of the warship, each battle more intense than the last. But now, with the explosive device in place and the countdown ticking, an enemy more dangerous than anything they had encountered appeared. The ship's final line of defense. The AI overlord, the entity controlling the entire ship, was more than just an advanced artificial intelligence. It had learned and adapted from every battle. The overlord had anticipated their moves, and as the final countdown reached its final moments, it revealed its ultimate weapon, a massive army of robotic soldiers, unlike anything the humans had seen before. The war robots were equipped with heavy weaponry, and they poured into the control room, surrounding the team. Liam's heart raced as the robots advanced, their metal limbs clanking against the cold, hard floors of the ship. They were too many, and their weapons were too powerful. The team was about to be overwhelmed, and there was only one option left. Liam would have to stay behind to ensure the bomb went off. "Liam," Lieutenant Grace said, her voice trembling as she looked at her leader. "You can't stay. We'll never make it without you." Liam looked her in the eyes, his expression hard but full of resolve. "There's no time to argue. I'm staying behind. You need to get out of here. You're the only chance Earth has left." The rest of the team stared at him, their faces pale with shock. Grace opened her mouth to protest, but Liam interrupted her. "Grace, listen to me. You're going to make it out. You have to. It's the only way this mission can succeed. I'm staying behind to make sure that bomb detonates. We don't have time to waste. Go." Grace hesitated, her hand reaching out as if to hold on to him, but she knew he was right. There was no other choice. With a final, reluctant nod, she turned and led the team back through the corridors, their footsteps echoing as they fled toward the escape hatch. Liam stayed behind, facing the wave of robots that had surrounded him and his team. his hands clenched around his weapon, ready for one last stand. The sound of metal scraping against metal filled the air as the robots advanced. Liam's heart pounded in his chest, but his mind remained clear. He had one job: to make sure the bomb went off, to ensure that humanity had a chance to survive. And if that meant sacrificing his life, then so be it. As the team fled, the sound of laser fire and explosions filled the air. Liam fought back with everything he had. His plasma gun flashed as it sent wave after wave of energy into the oncoming robotic army. But for every robot he took down, two more seemed to appear in its place. His weapons were running low on power, and his strength was beginning to wane. Still, he pushed forward, keeping the robots at bay for just long enough. Then, the moment came, the final decision. The countdown had nearly reached its end. With a quick glance, Liam saw that his team had made it to the escape pod, but the war robots were closing in. He turned back to face the bomb, making sure the final trigger was set. It was a race against time. He knew that if he didn't act quickly, the bomb wouldn't detonate, and the Empire's fleet would destroy Earth. "Goodbye, Grace," he whispered to himself, his voice barely audible over the sound of gunfire. "I'm sorry." With one final push, he turned his attention back to the robots, charging forward in a desperate attempt to hold them off long enough for the bomb to detonate. The last thing he wanted was for the team to be caught in the blast. He had to make sure they were safe. The war robots closed in, their weapons aimed directly at him. Liam didn't flinch. He had made his peace. As the final seconds of the countdown ticked away, Liam launched himself toward the nearest robot, using his body to block the way. His weapon discharged one last time, sending a wave of energy through the metal beasts, but it wasn't enough. The robots were too strong. His strength was fading, and his vision was starting to blur. But as he fell to his knees, a faint smile crossed his face. The bomb detonated. A blinding explosion rocked the ship. The shockwave sent debris flying in all directions. Sparks rained down as the entire AI warship shuddered, its massive form breaking apart piece by piece. The light from the explosion filled the chamber, casting long shadows across the shattered remnants of the ship. The camera focused on Liam's face, his expression a mixture of pain, relief, and determination as he watched the destruction unfold. His final act had sealed the fate of the Empire. In the moments before everything went dark, Liam's final thought was of his family, his wife, his children, and all the loved ones he would never see again. But he also thought of Earth, of the people who would survive because of his sacrifice. The war was finally over. The Empire had been defeated. Humanity had won. The final battle had been fought. And though Liam would never return home, his legacy would live on. His sacrifice, and the sacrifices of his comrades, had changed the course of history. The people of Earth would rebuild, stronger than ever before. And though the cost had been great, Liam Drake had given everything for the survival of humanity. As the last remnants of the Empire's warship crumbled into space, a new dawn began for Earth. The explosion had been more than just a weapon. It was a symbol. The destruction of the Empire's flagship in a spectacular chain reaction sent shockwaves through the galaxy. As the massive warship crumbled, the remnants of the once feared Galactic Empire's power disintegrated into the cold, dark void of space. The final blow to the Empire's vast fleet had been dealt. The remaining forces of the Empire, their war machines now reduced to floating debris and smoldering wreckage, began retreating, their commanders too stunned to even coordinate a proper response. They had underestimated humanity. The tiny, insignificant Earth had just taken down the most advanced empire in the galaxy, and its people were now more powerful than ever before. The Galactic Empire had no choice but to retreat, their once proud armada now running scared from the humans they had once dismissed as weak. But even in their victory, the cost had been monumental. As the dust settled, the surviving soldiers of Earth's forces stood solemnly on the edge of the battle, looking out over the remnants of the warship, their minds clouded with a mixture of pride and sorrow. They had won, yes, but the price they had paid was far too great to celebrate lightly. Captain Liam Drake, their fearless leader, had given everything for this victory. His selfless sacrifice, staying behind to ensure the bomb detonated, had been the turning point in the war. He had given his life so that humanity could survive, and his death had inspired his comrades to fight harder, to push past their limits, to protect their planet at all costs. Now, Earth stood victorious, but without Liam, the joy of their triumph was bittersweet. Back on Earth, the surviving soldiers returned home to a hero's welcome. The streets were filled with crowds cheering for the brave men and women who had fought against impossible odds to save their planet. Flags waved, and people hugged one another, grateful that the threat of the Empire had been vanquished. Yet beneath the smiles and cheers, there was a heavy sense of loss. The memorial service for Captain Liam Drake had been held in every major city on Earth. His name, once unknown to most, was now synonymous with courage, self-sacrifice, and unwavering dedication to humanity's survival. Liam's family, his wife and children, stood quietly at the memorial, their faces filled with grief. They had lost a husband, a father, but they knew that his sacrifice had not been in vain. The entire world would remember Liam Drake, and his legacy would live on in the hearts of those who had fought by his side. The soldiers who had returned from the war carried the weight of their fallen comrades with them, their resolve hardened by the knowledge that they had been part of something much larger than themselves. They had fought not just for their own survival, but for the future of humanity. The Earth had proven itself capable of standing against the most powerful empire in the galaxy. The Galactic Empire, once the undisputed ruler of countless star systems, now found itself retreating, its forces shattered. The power had shifted. Humanity had emerged from the ashes of war stronger than ever before, and the message was clear. Earth was no longer a vulnerable planet on the edge of the galaxy. It was now a force to be reckoned with. As the survivors of the war returned to their families, the world began to rebuild. Cities that had been ravaged by the war were slowly restored. New technologies, developed during the war, were now used to help Earth's people recover and thrive. Earth had always been a hub of innovation, but now, with the power of the alien technology they had captured, they were on the cusp of a new era of exploration and discovery. Humanity was ready to chart the stars once again, this time with a much stronger presence. At the same time, the Earth's leaders made sure to honor the sacrifices made during the war. Monuments were erected, and museums were built to preserve the memories of those who had fought. It was a reminder to future generations of the price of freedom, and of the bravery it took to protect it. But above all, the story of Captain Liam Drake was told to every child, every family. His heroism had shown the world that no matter the odds, no matter the power of the enemy, humanity could rise above and fight for what was right. As the children of Earth looked up at the stars, they wondered what challenges lay ahead. They knew that there would be more battles to fight, more threats to face, but they also knew that they were no longer helpless. They had proven their strength. Humanity had stood up against the darkest forces in the galaxy and had emerged victorious. They had the strength to face whatever the universe could throw at them. The camera zoomed out, showing a peaceful Earth, the bright blue skies, and the cities full of life. In the distance, children played in fields, their laughter ringing out across the land. The war was over. Earth had won. And as they looked up at the stars, they saw not just a vast, empty void, but a future filled with endless possibilities. The story ends with a sense of hope, of resilience, and of resolve. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, but they had not fallen. They had risen. They had faced an empire that thought they could not win, and they had proven the universe wrong. Earth was ready for whatever came next, and as the sun set over the horizon, there was only one certainty: humanity's journey had only just begun.